in which our happy couples learn that life is not easy, whether as newlyweds or as recent divorcees. Chapter 31. Strongly as Anna had wished to see her son, long as she had been thinking of it and preparing for it, she had never expected that seeing him would have so strong an effect on her. On returning to her lonely suite in the hotel, she was unable for a long time to understand why she was there. Yes, it's all over, and I'm alone again, she said to herself, and without taking off her hat, she sat down in an armchair by the fireplace, staring with fixed eyes at the bronze clock standing on the table between the windows. She began to think. The French maid brought from abroad came in to suggest that she dress. She looked at her in surprise and said, "Later." The footman offered her coffee. "Later," she said. The Italian wet nurse, having changed the baby, came in with her and gave her to Anna. The plump, well-nourished baby, as always, seeing her mother, turned over her bare little arms, which looked as if they had string tied round them, and, smiling with a toothless little mouth, began rowing with her hands palm down like a fish with its fins, making the starched folds of her embroidered frock rustle. It was impossible not to smile, not to kiss the little girl, not to give her a finger, which she seized, squealing and bouncing with her whole body. It was impossible not to offer her a lip, which she, as if in a kiss, took into her mouth. And Anna did all this, took her in her arms, got her to jump, and kissed her fresh cheek and bare little elbows. But the sight of this child made it still clearer that her feeling for her, compared to what she felt for Seryozha, was not even love. Everything about this little girl was sweet, but for some reason none of it touched her heart. To the first child, though of a man she did not love, had gone all the force of a love that had not been satisfied. The girl, born in the most difficult conditions, did not receive 100th part of the care that had come to the first child. Besides, in this little girl everything was still to come, while Seryozha was almost a person, and a loved person. Thoughts and feelings already struggled in him. He understood her. He loved her. He judged her, she thought, remembering his words and looks, and she was forever separated from him, not only physically but also spiritually, and it was impossible to remedy that. She gave the girl to the wet nurse, dismissed her, and opened a locket which she held a portrait of Seryozha when he was nearly the same age as the girl. She got up and, removing her hat, took an album from a little table in which there were photographs of her son at other ages. She wanted to compare the photographs and began taking them out of the album. She took them all out. One remained, the last, the best picture. He was sitting astride a chair in a white shirt, his eyes sulky, and his mouth smiling. This was his most special, his best expression. With her small, deft hands, which today moved their thin, white fingers with peculiar strain, she picked at the corners several times, but the picture was stuck, and she could not get it out. As there was no paper knife on the table, she took out the picture next to it. It was a picture of Vronsky in a round hat, with long hair, taken in Rome, and pushed her son's picture out with it. "Yes, here he is," she said, glancing at the picture of Vronsky, and she suddenly remembered who had been the cause of her present grief. She had not thought of him once all morning, but now, suddenly, seeing that noble, manly face so familiar and dear to her, she felt an unexpected surge of love for him. "But where is he? Why does he leave me alone with my sufferings?" she suddenly thought, with a feeling of reproach, forgetting that she herself had concealed from him everything to do with her son. She sent to him, asking him to come to her at once. With a sinking heart she waited for him, thinking up the words in which she wished to tell him everything, and the expressions of love with which he would comfort her. The messenger came back with the reply that he had a visitor, but would come presently, and with the question whether she could receive him with Prince Yashvin, who had come to Petersburg. "He won't come alone, and yet he hasn't seen me since dinner yesterday," she thought. "He won't come so that I can tell him everything, but will come with Yashvin?" And suddenly a strange thought occurred to her. What if he had stopped loving her? And going over the events of the last few days, it seemed to her that she found the confirmation of this horrible thought in everything. In the fact that he had dined out the previous evening, and that he had insisted they stay separately in Petersburg, and that even now he was not coming to her alone, as if to avoid meeting her tete-a-tete. "But he ought to tell me that. I need to know that. If I knew it, then I know what I'd do," she said to herself, unable to imagine the position she would be in once she became convinced of his indifference. She thought he had stopped loving her. She felt herself close to despair, and as a result she became peculiarly agitated. She rang for the maid and went to her dressing-room. As she dressed, she paid more attention to her toilet than she had all those days, as if, having ceased to love her, he might start loving her again because she was wearing a dress, or had done her hair in a way more becoming to her. She heard the bell ring before she was ready. When she came out of the drawing-room, it was not his, but Yashvin's eyes that met hers. Vronsky was looking at the photographs of her son, which she had forgotten on the table, and in no hurry to look at her. "We are acquainted," she said, putting her small hand into the enormous hand of Yashvin, whose embarrassment went strangely with his huge stature and coarse face. "Since last year, at the races. Give them to me," she said, and with a quick movement she took from Vronsky the pictures of her son that he had been looking at, glancing at him meaningfully with her shining eyes. "Were the races good this year? I watched the races of the Corso in Rome instead. However, you don't like life abroad," she said, smiling gently. "I know you, and know all your tastes, though we've met so seldom." "I'm very sorry for that, because my tastes are mostly bad," Yashvin said, biting the left side of his mustache. Having talked for a while, and noticing that Vronsky was glancing at the clock, Yashvin asked her how long she would be in Petersburg, and, unbending his enormous figure, took his cap. "Not long, it seems," she said in perplexity, glancing at Vronsky. "So we won't see more of each other?" said Yashvin, standing up and addressing Vronsky. "Where will you dine?" "Come and dine with me," Anna said resolutely, as if angry with herself for her embarrassment, but blushing as she always did when she revealed her position to a new person. "The dinners aren't good here, but at least you'll see each other. Of all his comrades in the regiment, there's no one Alexei loves more than you." "Delighted," Yashvin said with a smile, by which Vronsky could see that he liked Anna very much. Yashvin bowed and left. Vronsky stayed behind. "You're going too?" she asked him. "I'm late already," he answered. "Go on, I'll catch up with you in a minute," he called to Yashvin. She held his hand and gazed at him, not taking her eyes away, searching her mind for something to say that would keep him there. "Wait, I must tell you something." And taking his short hand, she pressed it to her neck. "So it's all right that I asked him to dinner?" "You did splendidly," he said with a calm smile, revealing a solid row of teeth, and kissed her hand. Alexei, you haven't changed towards me, she said, pressing his hand with both of hers. Alexei, I'm suffering here. When will we leave? Soon. You wouldn't believe how painful our life here is for me, too, he said, and withdrew his hand. Well, go, she said, offended, and quickly left him. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.